Welcome again to Growing Up Alien, and I have Eka here with me this morning. And for those who don't know, Eka is my husband. He is a Pleiadian from Erra. He is in a hell, and that is what I am, in a hell walking. So this morning, well, first I want to just thank Linda for singing the intro for us, especially. That's so brilliant. But one of the things to talk about is that, yes, you are seeing the shift already, and I'm sure many of you are feeling that. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a positive feeling because you're picking up on the sort of collective tidal wave of confusion. So many people aren't really ready or aware of what reality is. It's kind of interesting. Last night, for the first time, I watched the Steven Spielberg Contact movie there. Very interesting. They had Mr. Hynek on there, which was kind of nice at the end. I think that kind of made the show. But what was nice about that movie, Close Encounters, is that the way they sort of show how the extraterrestrials that were portrayed in that movie, the type of grays that they were showing, it was all very benevolent, and that's pretty awesome. So, yeah. So he's here with us. And one of the things I want to mention too, not he before he comes on, neither of us are great talkers, so it's always kind of like pulling teeth, as they say, to get anything out. But so yeah, the RFK appointment, some other announcements about securing free speech, that the psychological operations, and this is what a lot of your average people have fallen victim to. These psychological operations were just intense and brilliant and just perfectly executed. So I think what might happen here is the media may try, I'm not sure, some kind of character assassinations on RFK, which is what they do all the time. I don't think it's going to work anymore. I think they kind of burnt their cookies there. So they'll try to twist some stuff, making him out like a conspiracy theorist or kind of fringy. When he isn't. And it's complex because if you look at the big pharma institutions across certainly the Western world, these immense factory institutions of supposedly medicine, it's not. They're very cold, look like they're just disgusting. See, people get impressed by that. So that's part of the worship gene thing where well, if you look at the probably hundreds of years. I mean, in our instant, our close memory, the presumption and certainly force feeding that the only kind of medicine that actually works is chemicals and all invasive type, violent attacks on your body. That's the only way you can do it. The same thing goes for dental care, of course, fluoride, which is a poison, they're pulling that away. So it's all this, they poison us initially. They make you think you can't heal your own body, and then they tell you all kinds of crazy stuff. That's actually interesting because I'm going to bring that up, can bring up the idea of healing your own body, because that's one of the I was talking with Linda a little bit. So for some reason, the short I did on Eka's pasta meal like went crazy, like all these views. I don't know why, because I had pasta on there. But so he's eating food here, and one of the things that's interesting is that he doesn't seem overly concerned about. So I asked him this morning. I said, eating all, and that's the thing, eating toxic food. Not only him, but also the other extraterrestrials that are all amongst us. And he said, well, bodies are meant to be used. So he doesn't really care about, he's like, it's okay. It's fine. Yeah. He has no concerns whatsoever about being here, interacting, living as we're living, getting poisoned as we're poisoned. It's just not an issue. And this morning I asked him and he said, well, if I don't want anything in my body, it just goes. So that's really something we all can do. And I'm going to say something controversial, and that's okay, because you have the right to feel into some information. So, during the crazy stuff that was happening with the released extraterrestrial virus that everyone went crazy over. And that had to happen. But so I ended up getting the vaccine the first time. I didn't want to, but if I didn't, I would have lost my job. So I didn't just get the vaccine. What I did was have a discussion about the situation with, my contacts and everything. And they're like, oh, you're fine. Go ahead, get it. I'm like, okay. So I did. And so I just didn't need it in my body. And that's how I got rid of it initially. I didn't get any more. Obviously, I'm not going to keep drinking arsenic, it's like, but so that's just power you have in your own self. You say, well, I don't see, it was not a concern. I know that when I put it in my body, I don't need you, go away. And it did. So this is actually, I felt great after it because, after I got the vaccine, it was a little bit after, even my friend as well, who had to get it for his job too. It's like, we felt great. Why? Because at that point we had the distinct and strong intention to remove what we didn't need from our bodies. So we felt great. So the vaccine didn't make us feel great, obviously. It was the decision to remove stuff from our body which made us feel great. So that is Eeka's approach to being here on Earth, and service. He's here for service, and there's no real problem. And more than likely, the other extraterrestrials feel the same way. We can't, neither of us can speak for all those people that are here. Interesting little story about that. My friend Frank Chili told me a story. We're gonna have Frank on. He's just been very busy. But there was a lady, and I can't think about, I'm thinking it's the West Coast somewhere, maybe Oregon. I might be wrong. I can't remember all the details of the story he told me, but the details aren't important, is the main point. So this lady was in a cafe, and a man walked in. He was very unusual. Yes, they have certain energy signature, and she was pretty much, oh yeah, this guy's different. So she watched him, and he ordered a latte of all things, telepathically with the person who was the server at the cafe. And then he sat down, and she had a book. She was reading a book, and she handed him a book, and she telepathically insinuated, are you not born here, right? And he opened up the book, and he wrote something inside the front of and so, opened up the cover on the first flyleaf there, and he wrote something, handed it back to her. So when she opened up the book again, she read Nous sommes ici in French. We are here. So of course they're around. Another lady, she worked at, I know it was an aerospace place or something, other story from Frank Chili. I'll have to have him remind us of all these wonderful stories. But there was a man that worked there, young, they all look young. But he had unusual like skin, very smooth skin, tall, athletic build. They always look like that. And some of them are quite built. I mean, depends on what they're doing, but everybody's got different bodies. So nothing, I mean, they're all very athletic though. So this young man started kind of like hovering around where she was. And he would ask her every day, like, oh, how are you doing? Like, that kind of stuff. And she's, oh, fine, great. And he was like really like interested, and kind of like she could feel that there was something else he wanted to talk to her about. So he would keep coming by. She has these beautiful eyes. They have crazy eyes. But she's like, this guy's so different. What's up with this guy? Like, he looks like he's never shaved in his life. And, but he's very beautiful and very something, that the je ne sais quoi, right? So more than likely, he was. Because he just, she just kept coming around, like really trying to connect with her. And they have a little, I'm saying nervous, but they have a little bit of like, they're slight, like they want to tell you something, but they don't feel like can kind of thing. So what I recommend to somebody, if you suspect you're trying to make a connection with someone who's not born here, is to telepath with them and see if they answer you, right? Then you'll know, aha, and you make that look. I think that's really where they're hoping for the connection to happen, on that level where it's kind of like nudge, nudge, wink, wink kind of thing, which is kind of cute. Well, anyway, moving forward, one of the questions I asked Eeka this morning, a couple of questions actually. So since the food thing was so interesting, I asked him last night, I said, what what's your favorite food? And he's like, I know, because he likes a lot of different foods, so it's kind of hard to say, what's his favorite. But then like you like peaches. Like he likes peaches and nectarines. So what's the food on Erra? Well, it's pretty much the same as what you have here. So Earth was not inhabitable. All of the things you see around you on Earth are, brought in. So the indigenous people, you think of the Native Americans, when I talk about the sky woman and all that kind of things like that. The corn they were given, right? So yes, all of the trees, animals, that were that are now here on this planet are put here, right? So yeah, no, an amoeba or whatever, some kind of some kind of bacteria didn't crawl out of a slime and turn into a pine tree. That's insane. I mean, think about that. There's just no way, no way. We all know that everything that science supposedly is telling us is not true. So yes, there is, of course, natural selection, obviously, that does happen. But you're not going to turn a bacteria into an elephant. That's just, I mean, common sense, folks, really. Anyway, so the other question I asked him was, are there any negative extraterrestrial races and species here on the planet? And he said, not that he knows of. They were removed. So he has some time off today, so I'm able to kind of spend some time connecting. But he had a message. I'm talking to him. You had a message for people as we move forward. What did you want them to do? So they need to understand that they are holding the anchoring the new frequency, which is everything. I want to say everything is science, right? We're not talking in any woo woo kind of stuff. There's no woo woo here. There's no. He laughed. Um, He said that, yeah, he says you have to be the models. You're going to be the leaders for those people who may be struggling with what they're experiencing right now, and not to condemn them for what they are experiencing. Because you were there once, um, having issues with things. None of us in our lives anywhere on any other planet have perfect experiences, and we all struggle with different aspects of life and understanding. And so you want to forgive yourself and them and not hold grudges, because the experience is just what you have when you're in a body, and when you're in a difficult situation, as the people of Earth have been facing and are facing now. He says you were going to witness all of the extreme restrictions, the mind control. He says you might see an uptick in some of the psychological manipulations. Okay. It's really going to be up to the people on Earth, and especially you, to mitigate and not instigate any kinds of reactive, this is what you guys call lower vibrational, right? Type of actions. He said, so if you see that arising, your job is to use social media. Let's talk about social media, actually. I want to ask you about that. Social media is a very important tool, which is why you were so excited to use it, right? Yes. Uh, all right. So the off planet, I mean, the alliance, right? But the means, the off. We're talking. I want to focus on, yeah. So the off planet military operations understand and definitely highly value the current technology being used here. So your access to, right, use the TikTok, right, Instagram, so, yeah, YouTube, all of these, the social media, right? This is a very he wants you to understand, okay, this is a very pivotal arena of new inventions, okay? He's giving me a lot of stuff all at once, so I'm trying to kind of don't talk so fast. Well, it's not talking, he's sending it. Sometimes it's talking. All right. He says previously, so when you think about before the social media aspect of the internet, when you're talking about newspapers and books and all those kinds of things like that, um, yeah, you had to request permission to express yourself, and the dissemination of that information, if you were even allowed to express yourself by gatekeepers of all these things, the dissemination was limited. Okay. But now he says you have this kind of technology that is basically global, which allows regular people to voice their opinions. So as you can, so he says, as you notice now, okay, whew, as you notice now, you're already and have been over the past decades, eroding. He's showing me like sand, like if you had say like like cement when it gets broken up by ice, over time cement starts to erode and turn into sand. Okay, he says you're breaking down the controllers, like the control mechanisms over you, so you don't need. He says you're starting to realize through this freedom of these technologies that you are able to act, think, and do on your own without having to submit or request or bow down to someone over you. You don't ever, and you never did, of course, you never needed anyone over you to tell you what to do or to control the means in which you expressed yourself. So people are beginning to realize that these governmental systems and all of these institutions were never needed and are not needed now. Their importance has been degraded. So it's very important for you to understand and grasp this, to understand the weight of this, because the power is now in your hands where it should have been in the first place. You need to go back to your education institutions and realize that those were set up to systematically get you to believe and think that your mind, your opinions, your way of doing things, your thoughts, your own cognitive abilities were deficient at best and possibly destructive at worst. So mind control was instituted to children because that is the most effective time where your minds are the most pliable for you to begin to question your own reality and to begin to question yourself. So you were trained, in fact, you were punished if you expressed yourself. He also said you were herded along. And yeah, I know he says it was like dog training where you're given a biscuit, those the grading systems, right? Okay. Yeah. So school wasn't about learning. It was about mind control. It was about getting you to distrust yourself and to look outside all of the time, right? Let's right. Okay. So he's talking a lot fast. I'm trying. So what are you showing? Because I'm actually feeling what he's talking. So I just want to share. I think it's important. So what he's showing is like this child who initially you would have been, this is me talking. You would have naturally just looked inward, just like animals do. You naturally look inward, if you have a question about something, what do I feel? How would I, work through this? So you learn to problem solve naturally on your own, right? So what school does is removes that and says you can't problem solve on your own. Whatever you feel inside is wrong. In fact, feeling is wrong. It should only be in your head. And then when you're in your head, it isn't what you discern, it's what you are told to discern. Like what I was just talking about before, where think about this. You believe that some bacteria turned into a pine tree. I mean, come on, use your common, use your rational, and we did. I did. I believe in all that stuff too. So I'm just going to tell you, Darwin was part of the deep state, okay? And that there were some other guys that were out discussing, of course, women. You know that story about women, but I mean, there are other guys just talking about this too at the time period that were suppressed by the cabal. So those people who give you, this is what he was talking about, the gatekeeping. So when people were trying to deliver information, they were not allowed to do so because of the gatekeepers. They controlled who delivered information, right? So remember, it was never any free, there was no freedom of speech really, because what would happen is these gatekeepers would always sequester, silence, discredit anything that didn't go along with the mind control they were trying to put over you. Okay. All right, let's go back to him. Is there anything else you want to add? We're talking here. Yeah, blah, blah, right? All right, what do they need? What do they need as we move forward? What about, oh, I'm going to ask you about that. What about this idea of when there's going to be contact and all that, right? You smile, you always laugh, you smile. Well, what do you think this is, right? It's like, yeah, what do you think this is? You have contact now. Okay. Right, as that guy said, yeah, they're living amongst us, of course. I wanted to ask about the understanding, right, of getting people to understand their place. There are, yeah, he just said, well, there are Terrans in space. There's, of course, yeah, there's Terrans living in space now. Thousands, right? I would say thousands. Yeah, we had them on an Erra. They're on other planets. They're on the moon. They're on spaceships. Of course, you've got, right, you right. It's like, um, we have a Star Trek, Star Wars fleet up there now, full of humans, Earth humans, right, working with other extraterrestrials. Anything else? Let's see what he has to say. Yeah, he just said, can just continue to help people to understand that, you are one of many races in the galaxy or in our solar system, right? You're not separate. I always say, is there intelligent life off planet? He's like, he laughed at my life. Um, yeah, he's just real. Like I say, he's just been really happy. Um, there's a lot of great stuff coming. I think people are going to be very happy. What about those people who might be still concerned about? Well, they're not even, I mean, I would say they're not even going to know, really. I mean, I want to talk about when you were working, work, not when you are still working, you're still working there. But your experiences, how it felt, because you were sharing that with me, how it felt to be working with the people in the Air Force, particularly the regular, I mean, the airmen, not the officers so much as the airmen, and what your experience was, spending time with them, which I know you like to do, and that little shift that you that you experienced, right? So what was it like, you initially, so I just want to be, so he always shared these stories with me, like where I can look through what he was feeling and what they were feeling. So they were the airmen were telepathing without realizing, and sort of enjoying the experience. It was a very calming experience. One thing I want to say is what you noted, what you helped them with was understanding that, it doesn't, that interactions can be very vulnerable. They can be just, friends. They can be, exchange it in love, rather than this top down, or again, like what happened in school systems. This shut up, don't say anything, we'll tell you what to do. And there's really a lot, it's a desert. Earth is a love desert, and it's very damaging. And I think that's really where the root of all the problems that we have on this planet, especially with individuals, is this love desert. You're just dry here. There's no access to it. And yeah, you just kind of self-destruct from that. So when the I have to kind of, yeah, one young man, he an airman, a Terran airman, is always a cute, when he this is of course the first time these, well, yeah, I mean, I'll say is probably the first time a lot of these airmen actually, saw or knew hands, that they were face to face with someone who was not born on this planet. I will say you do have a different look. I mean, not now. I mean, there's just something. Like, how can I just? Yeah, well, of course, it's just the energy field, but mm, he's got a different. Like the features are just there's just something like this the skin texture and everything that he has, like his hair. I mean, there's just I forget the eyes. I mean, he just has a different quality about him. So when it was kind of a, I don't know, it was like a pleasant ontological shock maybe for these guys. It's like this is real, folks. It's yeah, it's like, oh God. It's like, I don't know, learning Santa Claus is real or something. It's just like they almost feel childlike to me. I think that's the expression. That's almost like, so the humans when they meet someone not born on this planet for the first time, in reality, it's like, I mean, it's just amazing. I don't know how to describe it. I always go back to this song by Sammy Hagar, Love Walks In. Yeah, it just changes your whole world in a really, really pleasant way. But I think it's almost like the best thing you've ever had happen to you. That's the only way I can describe it. If you can imagine the most amazing, best thing you've ever had happen to you, it's almost like all your suffering is over. That's what it feels like. And that was the energy. So I'm trying to describe the feelings because this whole interaction that he has with the airman, I'm just feeling it through feelings where it exists, actually. So words can't really express the depth, of how this. It's like, wow. Um, and I mean, they can just, I mean, that's really what it is they feel this tremendous love that they've never felt before. So I mean, it's just all, I think your mind kind of explodes in a way. But it's bliss, it's like they're like surprised, they can't believe it because you can't believe it. Like, you see something like this, you can't believe it. And because like everything they've been lied to, everything they've been told, they're like, oh, it's all fake, everything's been a lie. Like, oh my God. Um, so he takes the time to just connect. I think it's hard to because you're like, you're an officer, so it's you have that kind of like, they're like, oh, because it does I mean, only because, and I've worked under him. It's like, that's weird. It's always weird when you, um, but I don't really kind of work on you. Not really. No, not really. But I did a few times. Yeah, it's eroding that sense of like the punishment based top down that you're nothing. That I think so much of us, if you've grown up here, and I've grown up here, experiencing all this, where you're systematically beaten down. You're like, you're nothing, you're nothing, you're nothing. And there's always a superior, no matter where you go, even if it's in a workplace or something, you feel like you always owe everybody something. Like you have to ask permission to exist, basically. And to have that all erased is such a relief. I can't even put words to that. I mean, it's just like, wow, it's like being like a shamanic death. That's what it's like. So yeah, it was really beautiful experience for them. Now it's changed, I say, right? The first was the kind of the shock thing and the desensitization and the personal release to allow in an interaction with another person. Because I mean, they're just humans. And to have an interaction with another human, that's so different. Because when you stand next to an off-planet person, the telepathy is just natural. It's just you just automatically begin to interact on a different level. So, and it's just that intense sense of belonging. That's what's mind-blowing. And it really puts you in your power. So of course, if you think about it, taking you out of your power by making you feel like you don't belong, like making you feel like you don't even belong in this planet, like you have to ask permission to actually be around anybody. And you're constantly earning. You're constantly earning a right to exist. All of that deep, deep, deep shame, guilt, pain, exclusion. um, that's how you were controlled. So I always say it's super important that people need this contact because that's what's going to erode all of that sensation. Because I still think when you're around a lot of Terrans, it's very difficult, even in our community. And I always tell people this, be very careful about a lot of these, which is one of the reasons I wanted to make this channel with Eka, because I want you to talk to him personally so you can feel this, and to understand your own powers. The problem is even in our community, there's that gatekeeping top-down thing. And certainly when you was really, I mean, and we ended up upstairs. I said, remember that, he got really angry about this. So, and he still gets really angry when he sees, certainly in our community. I mean, look, guys, we're all on the same side. So when you have people, basically going to war with the same side, that's moronic. Like, why are you? It's almost you have to ask, why are you trying to take us down from within? We should be supporting each other, not attacking each other, not crushing each other, not gatekeeping each other. And that was a real thing, because that's not going to fly. And that's one of the things I want to do with this channel, is to make sure this is your channel, this is our channel, this is the boots on the ground channel. I don't gatekeep anyone. We get some great people coming forward, because I want to say, this is your duty, okay? This is your duty to come forward. A lot of these other people are doing it in ego. I get it. And you see that all the time. But that's their thing. They'll let them do that. That's just going to disappear. But you guys, it is your duty here. That's what you signed up for, okay? As boots on the ground. It is your duty here to come forward, because we need to be that tidal wave of reality. That's what we need. We need to be the counterintelligence. We are the psyop. What's happening now is a major psyop, right? He's absolutely. So Eka is absolutely on what's happening now. This is what we're doing here. This channel and hopefully all the other channels. We are a major counter psychological operation of truth tellers. That's we're now playing, we're playing ball with the bad guys. Right. And how we're going to play ball is by stepping forward and being a voice. So there's not a whole lot that the black hat psychological operatives can do when the millions of contactees step forward. So you need to stop looking at, and I hear people, they this is what concerned me so much. And Eka and I have talked about this, about some of these channels, where these people, some of them are not accurate. I don't know if they're using their contact experience to further their own popularity or monetary gain. This is distressing, because what actually happens is they step forward, in fact, even telling you not to do this. It's like, wait a minute, this is part of the, it's like, what? The way that we're going to crush the information being disseminated by the enemy, and I'm going to say enemy because you have channels here like, oh, everybody's lovey. No, you need to not love your enemy. Okay, like, these guys are monsters. We're in war. We're fighting them. That's it. Real. Okay, that's the real deal. They're fighting upstairs, like they're killing. There's death. like yeah. This idea that there's somehow some kind of like, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood situation. This is not a Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood situation. This is war, folks. So one of the ways that we're going to be able to push back even further, they're down. I mean, so we need to make sure they're absolutely done. And if you want to love them, go ahead. I just don't do your thing. But You need to step forward on your own channel, wherever. I don't, whatever you want to do. This channel's open for you for sure. So you already got, 6,000 something viewers ready to go. And that was all set up by the upstairs. Thank you guys for getting that so that we can have a little bit of voice, but not be too in the front so the baddies come and get us. Oh, they've already, whatever. So you need to step, you got to be a warrior. You can't be, that's what you signed up for, and it's not easy and you're going to make sacrifices. That's why you're here. That's why you're here. And you need to step forward and tell your story because there's millions of us. So when you start watching these shows of, it's the same people over and over, it's crazy. And I know a lot of us wanted to work behind the scenes because that's the kind of people we are. But now it's time to come forward. You did your work behind the scenes. All of that was set up over the probably decades for some of us of your lives. All of this was set up. Now it's time. It's time to come forward. I'm actually a year behind because I just didn't want to and that's how we are, you didn't want to. But it's time. So a lot of people are afraid to come forward because they've been, that's how the psychological operation happened. Take a look at a guy like Alex Collier, right? He got trashed when he was little. And, your own parents didn't believe you, remember stories like, I never told my parents by this. So I'm a whole different, they just kept it. I just knew when they told me not to, just to ride it, keep it quiet. So, but you saw that, amongst many of the experiencers who just never said anything. So this allowed these ego people to come forward and say, look how unique my story is. Your story is not unique. Your story is not unique. So there are so many people, and I said millions, who have access to social media and technology across the globe. Millions, probably even more than millions, who knows, that have the real information to come forward and start sharing this stuff. So yeah, I think we stop. I mean, so what I want to just do for some folks, and I know there's some, it's not for everybody, and but if it's for you, I want to help you with contacting extraterrestrials, and to understand what you've been contacting. So anyway, right, in your own time, it can be quite subtle. It doesn't always have to be, ship in your backyard. I always tell people that. And don't and stop see the thing humans have to understand is there is no competition. You have to stop that whole competition mindset. That is really poison, right? So competition is poison. Understand that. So upstairs, I can only speak for Erra because that's where I'm from, and those are pretty much people I talk to, and just a small percentage. It's an entire planet, so I don't know everybody on the planet, and I don't know how they think. So I only know my family and how we do things. So I also want to introduce Camiel a little bit more today. He's a good relative of mine on Erra and a great friend. And I think he would be a wonderful contact. And he's just like, yeah, he's jumping. He can't wait. He loves it. So he's very, very sweet. So what my guys do back home, my friends, family back home, is they try to telepath with you guys on Earth. It's just they can't wait. And they sit there and they try and they try to connect with somebody. And just to show you, this is an AI, obviously, but it doesn't really, I couldn't tell the AI how to make it look like Erra because they would have no idea. So this is what, I don't know what this is, but that's not what my planet looks like. But anyway, it works, right? It's AI. So they're really, really trying to connect with you and they can't wait. I'll be honest, they can't wait to get here. So many people can't wait to get here. So many off-planet people. Of course, some are already here, but so many can't wait to get here and meet you and talk with you. And when we talk about something like, is, a breeding program, right? No, it's going to be love. You're going to meet, you're going to finally meet. And there's so many, and I understand it's so painful for so many people on this planet finding someone to resonate with because you can't. And you're going to find someone to resonate with. And I'm going to, when we connect, it's on a deep, deep level that until you've experienced that, I'm going to tell you, probably don't even know what it feels like. But for most people who are listening to this channel, they're like, you felt it, you know what it feels like. So, I think it's just gonna be a love bomb is what it is, you know. You guys are gonna just love it. It's gonna be crazy. It's like your whole life is gonna you're finally gonna get to live a real life where you act in service and people it's not so much top down and you don't have to beg to exist and it's just gonna be just wow, you know, and it's amazing. So just picture here, you know, there's people on other planets, I know just for mine, that are waiting to connect with you. So that so it has to actually happen in the field, basically, right? You know, so it's like they're calling your phone number, but you're not picking up the phone. That's what's happening. So what you need to do is pick up the phone. Um, I'm going to just give you, like I said, for some people, you already know how to do this, but I'm just going to stop here. This is Camiel. I think he's an easy contact for many people. He's very gentle. He's very sweet. He's really funny. He would be like the fourth of the Three Stooges, to say the least. So, not there's anything intimidating about Eka. He's like not intimidating, but he might be. So this guy now, I think he would be the equivalent of like maybe a 20-year-old, 21-year-old human. And he's, like I said, I'm going to walk you through a way to hopefully answer the phone when he calls. I like to work with crystals. So if you have some crystals around your house, that's your best friend crystal, hold them. So sometimes when we have objects, it's more to help you focus your mind on them. But with crystals, they actually hold an electromagnetic, you know, ability that they resonate with this. They can hold it. They can help you to make the connection. So I recommend a crystal simply because it works on a, and they all work, you know. If there's some kind of object that you like, what it does is helps you to sort of focus your energy. I mean, that's how that works. So there's no magic involved in any of this stuff. But crystals do have a more powerful field that they can help you, like literally using physics to make some of these connections. So I have his picture. Well, it's an AI picture, pretty damn close. If you want to know what does he look like, you know, Camiel really, really hands down. If you like the band Bush, and whether or not you like them, but there's the rock band Bush. Gavin, I guess, is their lead singer. If you can find a picture of him when he was younger, that's pretty spot on to what Camiel looks like. But this picture here is pretty darn close. So, what I want you to do is that you can focus on his picture, then send out. So you relax, focus on his picture in a quiet space, and send out a connection. As you send out that connection and you hold it, you wait, and you should feel something. Now, he's just a man, so this isn't the same way you would be connecting with, say, like the nine or something like that, where they're always available because they're non-physical. But he's a man, just like we are men or women here. He's, you know, so sometimes he's doing other things, right? And it's like, and it may not be in that essence, but what actually happens is you're knocking on his door. So when you send that ping, he'll feel it and might send something back to you, depending on what he's doing. Like if he's sleeping, it's something, you know, but try to send that. So I knew this morning that Eka had a lot of time off where he's able to kind of focus entirely on me rather than being at work and having, like, you know, you do two things, you know, when you're multitasking. So I can, when he's free, he'll send me this deep resonance that I can feel in my body. And everyone will feel it differently. So I don't know what you're going to feel. But for me, I feel like throughout a warmth start to spread. And then I know that he's free this morning. Everyone experiences these connections a little differently. So don't be looking for a certain type of experience, and please don't compare yourself to what other people are doing. Okay. Oh, this guy, he channels and blah. Who cares? That's his role. Like that you have a different, not everyone doesn't have the same role. That's so important. And you may not, well, I don't channel. I don't feel the need to. Telepathy works for me. I don't need to have somebody take over my body to deliver information. But you may be able to do that. Um, but a lot of this, the block, and I've heard people say that, oh, they just don't talk to me. They are talking to you, but your self-hatred is preventing you from answering the phone, and it can be subconscious. So you're shooting yourself in the foot. You need to get out of your own way, and then it will happen. So they will contact. And this is what we were talking about initially. We've been so beaten down and experienced so much hatred here. But remember that hatred is Terran hatred. It's Terrans that hated you, not people from Venus, not people from Sirius B, not people from Erra, right? Not people from the Pleiades. It's Terrans that hated you. So you don't need to cater to that because it's all coming down. And I think if you look at it as a term of saying, well, wow, now that I've experienced that, like when I don't like it, now I can experience real love. And I'm pretty sure you're going to like that. So, and it's process for everyone. It's not, for some people it'll happen quickly, from some people it might take more time. But the main reason you're not getting connection is because you're not answering the phone. So, like I said, you have to trust yourself. You have to use your own discernment. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to Eka, right? Use your own discernment. We're just offering you some suggestions because I want you to experience this. And it's just really difficult for me to hear people, believe the mind control that other Terrans have imposed on them. And I get it. I was there. I think most people watching this has been like, yep, yeah, we know. Like, we've been there. This is a love desert. So, but you can feel love from other humans that weren't born on this planet. You can. And they're really looking forward to talking with you. They spend time, a lot of time, trying to connect. So they're ringing your phone, but you're not answering it. So you got to answer the phone. And yeah, it's amazing. But I did mention in a short, and I want to say this again, this beautiful story. And so many kids, I can't even imagine how. I'd be curious, and this is exciting to see. We're at a time now to see how many people have had contact, because that was the war plan, folks. Was to infiltrate from within, because that was the only way forward. And most of us have had, I would say, if you are a contactee, you've had contact. You got to remember now. You got to go back and remember the contact you had as a child. So was this little girl, she's still a little girl now. she's getting it now. And she says, and a lot of kids are in a great place now because they can tell their parents, or they can tell people, other people who are contactees. They can see this on the internet, that what I'm experiencing, I don't have to keep hidden per se. So this little girl, because she's in a very safe family who understands these things. So she says, I'm talking to a man on the moon. And there's cities on the moon. She said, we go up and there's cities, and this man is very nice. So it's key, because she says, not that there's a man on the old story of when you were a child, that there's a man on the moon, right? No, she says, I'm talking to a man who is on the moon. And this man, she says, is very nice. And he takes me up on the ships. And the kids are so open. That's what I loved about Close Encounters, was that little boy little toddler, they're more than a toddler, maybe he's like 4, I guess, or who knows. I don't do kid ages very well, but in Close Counters, really, if you want to watch it again, you can watch it free, of course, on YouTube. So there's this little boy, but watch the little boy and how it looks on his face and the joy, and that's exactly the way kids experience this, with joy, and because they can feel it. They can feel this immense love, and they want it. So little boy runs out, the mother's in Close Encounters, the mother's freaking out, typical Terran reaction. And the little boy is like, oh my God, no, we got to get out there. We got to get out. We got to see this. And he goes up on the ship and he has a wonderful time up there. And that's what a lot of children, and probably many of you, if you can just remember back and just ask, did I go up? Yeah, right. So because you're just ready at that point, they plant the seeds then. So this little girl has a man born on another planet who's very nice, as she says. And he takes her up there, and they get entertainment, and they do all kinds of lovely things, and he shows her and takes her around the cities on the moon and also around the ship. And for many of you, you're like, yeah, that was me, right? I know what that was literally me. When they would show me, you need to spend time with this lovely man, and he's so nice, right? So I think we all know that this little girl one day, well, when she grows up, because we're not pedos, no, no, no. That's disgusting, folks. One day, just like me and probably just like you, when you grow up, he's gonna be there for you in a different way than he was when you were a child, waiting for you to grow up. So this little girl already has a special man that one day, probably sooner than later, but isn't that, it's so funny though. And I tell Eka that, like, oh my God, you had your wife was in diapers. What the hell? That's like, oh my God, so weird. But that's the way it is. That's how you're so many nows, and you're having lives in other places. And anyway, right? There's just now. So you can journey in the future, in the past, and you can journey through dimensions. I mean, it's just wild. So anyway, spend some time, if you haven't had contact yet, working with Camiel, who can't wait for contact. He's going crazy. He wants to be an influencer on YouTube, so I got to bring him on a lot more. He is wild. So wait till you see some of the stuff that we talk about. I know Ika's just like, don't even say it. Don't. All right, I know I'm not going to say it. We will say it, but not yet. So anyway, focus on his face and see if what you feel or what you hear and sense. All right. By the way, I'll just say, just don't pull his finger. And if he asks that. All right. Cheers, guys.